Hello everyone, I'm the Saxy Gamer. Today we're here for yet another Civilization 6 Leader Spotlight, where today we'll be taking a look at Cleopatra of Egypt. So getting right into things, Cleopatra's first ability is known as Mediterranean's Bride, and what it does is it makes it so that your trade routes to other civilizations provide +4 gold for you, and other civilizations' trade routes to you provide +2 food for them and +2 gold for you. And trading with allies earns twice as many bonus alliance points. So, Mediterranean's Bride, it's pretty okay. Getting +4 gold for your trade routes to other civilizations actually can be quite nice. That can stack up, if you have like 6 or 7 trade routes in like the mid to late game. That can be a lot more gold, which can be quite helpful. The +2 food for your allies is, or not for your allies, for people that are sending the trade routes to you. That's a little bit of, that's a little bit iffy. +2 gold for you whenever people send trade routes to you once again is pretty good. And the alliance points thing, it can be quite nice. I don't really find that alliances normally make too much of a difference, but it is a nice thing to have. Overall, Mediterranean's Bride, it's a good ability, but it's not outstanding. Her second ability is Iteru, and what it does is it makes it so that you get +15% production towards districts and wonders if they're placed next to a river, and floodplains do not block the placement of districts and wonders. So Iteru is, I don't know, it's just kind of average. +15% production isn't really that much, and in addition to the districts, or like districts placed next to a river, that can be helpful, but wonders, it's not great. Maybe if you're building the Hanging Gardens or the Pyramids in the early game, it can be nice, but even so, if you're playing on higher difficulties, those early game wonders are snatched up by the AI so often, so quickly, that it's not going to make much of a difference. This will be a little bit more helpful on lower difficulties, whenever the AI don't take them quite as fast, but on higher difficulties, I don't find this to be too much of a pain, or too much of a pain. It is a lot of a pain, too much of a good thing, because the AI, as I said, just take them all the time. Being able to build districts on floodplains can be quite nice, especially since Egypt has a desert spawn bias. I don't find that floodplains are blocking, the placement of my districts too often, but, I guess if you're going to be having a desert spawn bias, that's a nice thing to have, and in addition, if you're building them on floodplains, you'll be getting 15% production, just because that's next to a river. So overall with Iteru, it's okay, it's pretty average, it's not great, but it's not awful. So let's move on to Egypt's unique unit. So Egypt's unique unit in Civ 6 is the Maryannu Chariot Archer, and is a unique unit that replaces the Heavy Chariot, so you're going to unlock that with the wheel. It has a melee strength of 25, which is 3 less than the Heavy Chariot. It has a range strength of 35, which, I didn't compare this one to the Heavy Chariot because the Heavy Chariot doesn't have a ranged attack, so I compared it to the Archer, and 35 is 10 more than an Archer, which is quite nice, and that would be obviously +35 from a Heavy Chariot because Heavy Chariot doesn't have ranged attacks. It has a movement of 2, which is the exact same as the Heavy Chariot. It has a production cost of 120, which is +55 from the Heavy Chariot, and it has a maintenance cost of 2 gold per turn, which is 1 more than the Heavy Chariot. And as far as its special abilities are concerned, it gains +2 movement if starting on flat terrain, which is 1 more than the bonus that the Heavy Chariot normally gets. Normally the Heavy Chariot will get +1 movement if you start on flat terrain, but the Maryannu gets 2. So looking at the Maryannu Chariot Archer right here, it's a bit of a mixed bag because it is a very strong unit. 35 range strength as early as you get it is quite nice. The melee strength doesn't hold up quite as nicely, but range strength is quite huge, and it can have pretty decent movement if you're able to start on flat terrain. You get 4 movement, that can be very nice. The thing that really kills the Maryannu Chariot Archer though is the increased costs for it. So production cost of 120 is +55 from the Heavy Chariot, which is almost double because Heavy Chariot's base cost is 65. So it's almost double the cost of the Heavy Chariot, which really, really, really sucks, especially in the early game whenever your cities aren't going to have very high production. So +55 additional production, that's going to be 5 or more turns additionally to build one of these things, and a maintenance cost of 2 gold per turn. You can't really build that many because you're probably not going to have that much gold per turn at the start of a game, so getting crushed by a bunch of unit maintenance is going to be really, really bad. So overall for the Maryannu, it's a powerful unit, but it has some significant drawbacks due to how expensive it is. Moving on to Egypt's unique building, though, we have the Sphinx, which is a unique tile improvement that is unlocked with Craftsmanship. It provides +1 culture, and this eventually rises to +2 whenever you have natural history, and it also provides +1 faith, and this will give +2 more if you build it next to a wonder. It provides +1 appeal to the surrounding tiles, and as far as, building restrictions go, it's actually fairly relaxed compared to most unique tile improvements, because you can build this on any tile, just as long as it's not adjacent to another Sphinx. So the Sphinx actually is pretty okay. It allows you to make use of a lot of otherwise dead tiles, especially since, you know, you're Egypt, you're going to be spawning in the desert. There's a lot of tiles that you can't build anything on, but you can put a Sphinx on them, so I guess that helps. It actually can be quite powerful for culture victories as well, because you can build your seaside resorts, you know, along the coastline and put Sphinxes right behind them, and that's going to give +1 appeal to, you know, the two that it's next to, and you can effectively boost all of your seaside resorts just by using Sphinxes. And in addition to that, you know, since it does provide +2 culture, that means once you get flight, all your Sphinxes are going to provide +2 tourism as well, which, you know, it's not that significant, but if you have, you know, like 20 or more Sphinxes just scattered around your empire, then it's going to be at least moderately significant. So overall, the Sphinx, it's pretty good. It's made much better by the fact that you can build it pretty much anywhere, so like you can make use of a lot of otherwise dead tiles with this, and for that reason, I think it's pretty okay tile improvement. And now with all of this in mind, let's go ahead and discuss some of the strengths and weaknesses of Cleopatra and the Egyptians. So the first strength is that the Maryannu Chariot Archer is quite powerful. As far as like combat strength is concerned, the Maryannu Chariot Archer is very strong. Especially since it has, you know, you can possibly get 4 movement on it. It has a ranged attack as well that is like 10 combat strength above like an archer's normal ranged attack. It can hit super hard, but one of the weaknesses that really just directly corresponds to this is that the Maryannu Chariot Archer is expensive, like really expensive in production, and a little bit more expensive in gold as well. So it's both a strength and a weakness. You know, it's a very strong unit, but at the same time, it's really balanced, like pretty hard by the fact of how expensive it is. So I consider that to be both a strength and a weakness. You know, if you're able to afford the unit, you can do a lot with it, but if you're not able to afford it, it's going to be totally useless to you. As far as another strength goes, I very much like that you can make use of the Sphinx in any game. Like, you're not restricted to any particular tiles, which is something I have a problem with, like, whenever it comes to, say, the Netherlands polders, that you can get a spawn and then you can maybe build, like, 2 polders in the entire game, because you're just out of luck. The spawn doesn't work for it. But with the Sphinx, you can use the Sphinx no matter what, because, you know, you can build it wherever, so long as it's not right next to another Sphinx. And the Sphinx is can be quite helpful whenever you're going for culture victory. You know, you can boost the appeal of surrounding tiles, which can help for national parks. It can help for seaside resorts. You know, they'll provide a little bit of culture and tourism as well. So overall, the Sphinx is a nice it's a nice part of the Egyptians in Civ 6. And as far as another weakness goes, I consider the desert spawn bias to be a pretty big weakness. Spawning in desert is just generally not very helpful because you can't really get much from many of the desert tiles. They don't have good yields on them. So I personally hate being in desert, and there's not really much of a reason to like being in desert, unless you get Petra, of course. But, you know, that's one of those things that's kind of up in the air as to whether or not you'll get it before one of the AI does. So I do consider the desert spawn bias to be quite a big weakness of Egypt. And now it is time to give Egypt their tier ranking. So if you're new to the series, what I do is I give each civilization a tier ranking in each of the 4 victory types, so domination, science, culture, and religion, and I give them an overall rank as well that takes into account such things as, you know, their spawn bias, how versatile they are, how good is their unique unit or building. So without further ado, let's go ahead and rank Egypt. So first up, we have domination, and I think Egypt's going to deserve a C in domination. They really just don't get too much as far as domination goes. Their unique unit is... It's a strong one, but it's also a really expensive one, and I don't think it's able to provide very much of a difference, you know, in early combat, because you're not going to be able to afford to put out like a lot of them just because of how expensive they are. And, you know, aside from that, they don't really get any bonuses to, like, unit production or loyalty, or, I mean, I guess the gold can be helpful, but once you start warmongering, you know, people aren't going to want to trade with you because they're going to be declaring war on you and hating you, so that even kind of goes out the window. So for that reason, I think Egypt is deserving of a C in domination. As far as science goes, I once again think they're going to deserve a C just because... I mean, they don't get any bonuses to it, really. They don't really have anything that makes them bad in science, but... they really don't have anything that makes them good, so they're pretty much average, so they're going to get a C. As far as culture goes, I think that they are deserving of a B in culture. They're not great in culture, but it's definitely probably the best thing that you can go for as Egypt. The Sphinxes are really just the main driving force behind this, because being able to increase the appeal of surrounding tiles can be super helpful in the late game whenever you're building seaside resorts and national parks. So just having that ability can help produce, you know, quite a bit more tourism, and, you know, as I've said before, even the Sphinxes can produce a little bit of tourism once you get flight. So overall, they're a pretty okay culture civ. They're not like top tier, but they're pretty decent. And lastly, we have religion, and I think Cleopatra deserves a B in religion. She's not outstanding in religion, but you can actually get quite a bit of faith per turn if you have enough sphinxes that are next to wonders or something of the sort, because those will then provide +3 faith each, and you can stack up quite a bit of faith with that as long as you're able to make use of it well. So for that reason, I think they're going to deserve a V, because whenever it comes to religion, pretty much all that you want is just a ridiculous amount of faith per turn, and Egypt can actually amass quite a decent amount of that. So for that reason, I think they are going to deserve a B. And for their overall ranking, I think Egypt deserves a C. They're not, I wouldn't consider one of the, them to be one of the better civs, or one of a civ that I even particularly enjoy playing, but they're not awful, you know, they're not Chandragupta, they're not Tamar, they're not Norway, so, you can definitely win games, moderately easily with Egypt, but you're going to have a much better time with some of the other civs in the game, such as, you know, if you want to go cultural Persia, you're going to absolutely wipe the floor with Egypt. So they're an okay civ, they're not great, but, you know, they're definitely not bad either. So for that reason, I think they deserve a C. So thank you everyone for watching. I've been the Saxy Gamer. If you enjoyed the video, feel free to like. If not, feel free to dislike. If you're looking for more Civilization 6 content, feel free to subscribe. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.